You actually showed up. I was just messing with you. The text message glowed on Daniel Carter's phone like a knife to the chest. $50. That's all he had left after 2 jobs, rent, and his daughter's medication. And he'd spent it on a woman who never planned to show. But what happened next when the CEO at the next table stood up and walked toward him would change everything he thought he knew about kindness, love, and second chances. Before we begin, please hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the very end of this story. And comment below what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels across the world. She's not coming, is she? Daniel Carter whispered the words to himself, staring at the empty chair across from him. His fingers gripped the edge of the white tablecloth so hard, his knuckles had gone pale. 23 minutes. That's how long he'd been sitting there, watching couples laugh around him, watching waiters refill water glasses, watching his hopes slowly drain away like the ice melting in his untouched water. The restaurant buzzed with life he didn't feel part of. Silverware clinked, wine glasses caught the candlelight. Somewhere in the corner a woman laughed, the kind of laugh that sounded like she'd never known a hard day in her life. Daniel looked down at his shirt. He'd ironed it 3 times that morning before his shift at the warehouse. Emma had watched him from her bed, her small voice still rough from sleep. "Daddy, why are you making your shirt so flat?" "Because," he'd said, running the iron carefully over the collar, "when you meet someone special, you want to look your best." "Is she going to be my new mommy?" The question had stopped him cold. He'd turned off the iron, sat on the edge of her bed, and pulled her close. "No, baby, nobody's replacing mommy. But Daddy needs a friend. Is that okay?" She'd nodded against his chest, her tiny fingers clutching his work-worn hands. "You need a friend, Daddy. You're always sad." Out of the mouths of babes. 7 years old, and she could see right through him, now sitting in this restaurant with $50 burning a hole in his pocket money that should have gone to groceries, to Emma's new shoes, to the electric bill that was already 2 weeks late. Daniel felt like the biggest fool in Boston. His phone buzzed again. He didn't want to look, didn't want to see another excuse, another lie. But his thumb moved anyway, sliding across the screen. The message made his stomach drop. "You actually went, I was just messing with you. Did you really think someone like me would date someone like you? Thanks for the laugh." The words blurred. Daniel blinked hard, refusing to let the tears come. Not here. Not in front of all these people who had their lives together, who didn't know what it felt like to choose between dinner and dignity. "Sir." The waiter appeared at his elbow, young and uncomfortable. Will you be ordering?" Daniel looked up at him, and something in the kid's eyes told him he knew. He knew Daniel had been stood up. He knew Daniel was sitting here alone, pathetic, probably pitied by everyone in the restaurant. Daniel's voice cracked. He cleared his throat. "Just water. Thank you." "Sir, you've been here almost half an hour. I'm going to need you to order something, or—" "I understand." Daniel stood up too fast. His chair scraped against the floor loud enough that several people turned to look. Heat flooded his face. He reached for his wallet, hands shaking, trying to pull out a few dollars for the water, for the trouble, for taking up space in a world that clearly didn't want him. "Wait." The voice came from behind him, female, authoritative, not unkind. Daniel turned. A woman stood 3 feet away, and for a second all he could do was stare. She wasn't young, probably mid-40s, same as him, but she carried herself like someone who'd never doubted her place in the world. Her suit was pressed sharp enough to cut. Her dark hair was pulled back in a way that said she didn't have time for nonsense, but her eyes looked sad. "I'd like to pay for his meal," she said to the waiter. "Ma'am, he hasn't ordered. Then I'll pay for whatever he orders." She pulled out a black credit card, the kind Daniel had only seen in movies. "And bring him the menu, the full menu." "That's not necessary," Daniel said quickly. "I'm fine, I was just leaving." "Were you—" She tilted her head slightly. "Because it looked to me like you were about to run out of here without giving yourself the dinner you deserve." You don't understand. I understand more than you think. She gestured to the chair. Sit, please. Daniel hesitated, pride warred with exhaustion in his chest. He was so tired of working 2 jobs, tired of coming home to an empty bed, tired of being strong for Emma when he felt like he was breaking apart inside. Why? He asked quietly. The woman's expression softened. Because 20 years ago I sat exactly where you're sitting, and nobody helped me, and I swore if I ever got the chance, I'd help someone else. Something in her voice told him she was telling the truth. Daniel sat down. The waiter, looking thoroughly confused, handed him a menu and disappeared. I'm Victoria, the woman said. She didn't offer her hand, didn't move to join him, just stood there, arms crossed, watching him like he was a puzzle she was trying to solve. Daniel. Well, Daniel, I'm going to go back to my table now, but you're going to order yourself a proper meal, and you're not going to feel guilty about it, understood? I can't accept. It's not charity. Her voice sharpened. It's a reminder. You deserve kindness even when the world forgets. Before he could respond, she turned and walked back to her table in the corner. She sat down, opened her laptop, and didn't look at him again. Daniel stared at the menu. The prices made his head spin. $38 for salmon, $25 for pasta. These weren't numbers he dealt with. These were numbers that paid bills, bought medicine, kept the lights on. The waiter returned, pen poised. I'll have the... Daniel scanned frantically. The pasta, please. Excellent choice. And to drink? Water's fine. When the food came, a beautiful plate of linguine with vegetables he couldn't name. Daniel ate slowly. Each bite felt surreal. The pasta was perfect. The sauce was rich. And for the first time in 3 years, since Sarah died, since his world collapsed into a nightmare of hospital bills and funeral costs, and learning to braid his daughter's hair from YouTube videos, for the first time someone had seen him, not his poverty, not his failures, not the desperate single dad trying to hold it together, just him. When he finished, the waiter brought the check presenter empty except for a business card. Victoria Sterling, CEO, Sterling Organics. If you ever feel like being seen again, you know where to find me. Daniel pocketed the card. He looked over at her table, but she was gone. Vanished like she'd never been there at all, except for the warmth still spreading through his chest and the full stomach that reminded him he was human. He walked out into the cold Boston night, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel quite so alone. Emma was asleep when he got home. Mrs. Chen from 3B had watched her for the evening, a favor Daniel would have to repay by fixing her bathroom sink this weekend. He tiptoed into Emma's room and sat on the edge of her bed watching her breathe. She looked so much like Sarah. Same wild brown hair, same little nose that scrunched up when she dreamed, same stubborn set to her jaw even in sleep. I met someone tonight, baby girl, he whispered. Not like that, just someone kind. Emma stirred her hand, reaching out in sleep to grab his finger. Her grip was surprisingly strong. I'm trying, Emma. I'm trying so hard to be the dad you deserve. His phone buzzed. Daniel pulled it out, expecting another cruel message from the woman who'd stood him up. Instead, it was his boss at the warehouse. Carter, we need you tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Jenkins called in sick. Tomorrow was Saturday, his day with Emma. The one day a week he didn't have to choose between being present and being employed. Daniel closed his eyes and typed back, I'll be there. He didn't sleep much that night, just lay on his back staring at the ceiling, thinking about a woman in a perfect suit who'd paid for his dinner, thinking about how small that gesture was for her probably, how huge it was for him. The business card sat on his nightstand. He didn't call. How could he? What would he even say? Thank you for reminding me I'm human. Thank you for not letting me starve on principle. A week passed, then another. Daniel worked his shifts, came home exhausted, helped Emma with homework, tucked her in, and fell into bed only to do it all again the next day. The business card stayed on his nightstand, gathering dust. Until one Thursday afternoon. Emma had a half day at school and Daniel's morning shift at the coffee shop had ended early. On impulse, the kind of impulse born from exhaustion and loneliness, and the tiny voice in his head that sounded like his daughter saying, "You need a friend, Daddy." He walked into a cafe 3 blocks from work, and there she was. Victoria Sterling sat at a corner table, laptop open, reading glasses perched on her nose. She wore a navy blazer today, her hair down around her shoulders. She looked softer somehow, more human. Daniel almost turned around, almost left before she could see him, before he could feel the weight of obligation or pity or whatever complex emotion came with accepting kindness from a stranger. But then she looked up, their eyes met, and she smiled. Not a polite smile, not a corporate smile. A real smile, the kind that reached her eyes and made them crinkle at the corners. She stood up, walked to the counter and ordered. When Daniel approached, she slid a cup across to him. "Black coffee, 1 sugar. Am I right?" He stared at her. "How did you—" "I pay attention." She gestured to the empty chair at her table. "Join me." Daniel sat. The coffee was perfect. "I remembered your courage," Victoria said simply. "Courage. It takes courage to stay in that chair when you know you've been made a fool of. Most people would have run. You stayed. You kept your dignity when someone tried to take it from you." She took a sip of her own drink, something fancy with foam on top. "That's rare. Or stupid." "No," her voice was firm. "Courage and stupidity aren't the same thing. Courage is knowing you're hurting and choosing grace anyway." They talked for an hour, then 2. Victoria told him about growing up poor in South Boston, about working 3 jobs to put herself through community college, about building her company from nothing in a garage, with more determination than sense. "People see the suit and think I was born into this," she said. "They don't see the years I ate ramen for dinner. They don't see the nights I cried because I couldn't make rent." Daniel told her about Sarah, about the cancer that came out of nowhere when Emma was 4, about watching his wife fade away in a hospital bed while he held her hand and promised to take care of their baby girl, about the medical debt that still haunted him, the bills that kept coming even after she was gone. "I failed her," he said quietly. "She told me to move on, to find someone who'd make me happy. And I can't. I've tried, but I can't." Victoria reached across the table and touched his hand, just briefly, just enough to ground him. "You haven't failed anyone. You're surviving. That's all any of us can do." When they finally left the cafe, the sun was setting. Daniel checked his phone and panicked. "I have to go. Emma, she gets out of school in 15 minutes and I promised—" "Go," Victoria said. "But Daniel—" He turned back. "This doesn't have to be the last time if you want to talk again." He wanted to. God, he wanted to so badly it scared him. "I'd like that," he managed. She handed him another card. This one had her personal cell number written on the back. "Call me when you're ready. No pressure, no expectations, just if you need a friend." Daniel took the card. This time he didn't let it gather dust. They started meeting once a week, sometimes at the cafe, sometimes at the park where Emma played after school. Victoria never pushed, never asked for more than he could give. She just showed up consistent and steady, like a lighthouse in the fog of his life. 3 weeks in, she invited him to something called a community nutrition workshop that her company was sponsoring. "It's boring corporate stuff," she warned. "But there's free food, and I thought, maybe you'd like to see what I do." Daniel almost said no. What did he know about nutrition? He was a guy who survived on instant noodles and whatever was cheapest at the grocery store, but something in Victoria's eyes, a vulnerability he hadn't seen before, made him say yes. The workshop was held in a sleek conference room downtown. Daniel felt out of place immediately. Everyone else wore business casual, carried leather notebooks, spoke in acronyms he didn't understand. He sat in the back trying to be invisible. Victoria was brilliant. She stood at the front of the room talking about food deserts, about access to healthy food in low-income neighborhoods, about the gap between what people knew they should eat and what they could afford to eat. "We have solutions," she said, "but we need to listen to the people we're trying to help. We need their voices at this table." During the Q&A, someone asked about single parents. "How do we reach them? They're too busy working to attend programs like this." Daniel felt something ignite in his chest. Before he could stop himself, he stood up. Every head in the room turned. "You want to know how to reach single parents?" His voice shook, but he kept going. "Stop scheduling everything during work hours. Stop making programs that require internet access when some of us can't afford Wi-Fi. Stop creating meal plans that assume we have time to cook from scratch when we're working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on." The room went silent. "I'm sorry," Daniel said quickly. "I shouldn't have—" "No." Victoria's voice cut through the quiet. "Don't apologize. Keep going." He looked at her. She was smiling, not politely, genuinely. "What else?" she prompted. Daniel took a breath. "You want to help? Stop talking about healthy choices like it's a moral failing if we can't afford organic kale. My daughter needs to eat. Some days that means mac and cheese from a box because it's 99 cents and I know she'll actually eat it. That doesn't make me a bad parent. It makes me a parent doing the best I can with what I have." His hands were shaking now. He sat down, heat flooding his face. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then Victoria started clapping. One person joined her, then another, then the whole room was applauding, and Daniel wanted to sink through the floor. After the workshop, Victoria found him in the hallway. "That," she said, "was exactly what we needed to hear." "I made a scene. You told the truth. There's a difference." She pulled out her phone. "I'm going to have my team reach out to you. We need consultants who understand what it's really like, people who can keep us honest." "Victoria, I'm not qualified." "You're more qualified than anyone in that room. You live it every day." Daniel shook his head. "I don't have a degree. I don't have experience in—" "You have something better. You have perspective." She meant it. He could see it in her eyes. "Let me think about it," he said finally. "Take all the time you need." But as they walked out together, Daniel felt something shift inside him. For 3 years, he'd been defined by loss, by grief, by barely surviving. Maybe it was time to be defined by something else. Maybe it was time to try. The next afternoon, Victoria showed up at the library where Emma did homework, while Daniel worked his evening shift at the coffee shop. He'd mentioned it once in passing, how Mrs. Chen couldn't watch Emma every day, how the library was safe and free and had books to keep his daughter occupied. He didn't expect Victoria to remember. He definitely didn't expect her to show up. But there she was, walking through the children's section with a bag from the bookstore and an uncertain expression that looked completely foreign on her usually confident face. Emma saw her first. "Daddy, there's a pretty lady looking at you." Daniel turned, nearly dropping the stack of books he was reshelving. Victoria raised her hand in a small wave. "Is it okay that I'm here?" she called softly, mindful of the library's quiet. Emma tugged on his sleeve. "Who is she?" "A friend," Daniel said. He walked over Emma, trailing behind him. "Victoria, this is Emma. Emma, this is Miss Victoria." "Ms." Victoria corrected automatically, then smiled at Emma. "But you can call me Victoria." Emma stared at her with the unabashed intensity only children possess. "You're very pretty." "Thank you." Victoria knelt down to Emma's level. "I brought you something. Your dad mentioned you like to draw." She pulled out a coloring book, not a cheap newsstand one, but something thick and beautiful with intricate designs, and a set of colored pencils that had to have cost more than Daniel made in a day. Emma's eyes went wide. "For me, for you." Emma looked up at Daniel, asking permission with her eyes. He nodded, throat tight. "What do you say, baby? Thank you." Emma threw her arms around Victoria's neck. Victoria froze. just for a second. Then her arms came up slowly, carefully, wrapping around the small body pressed against her chest. When she closed her eyes, Daniel saw something crack in her expression. Pain, old pain surfacing. Emma pulled back, already opening the coloring book. "She smells good," Emma announced to Daniel. "Like Mommy." The world stopped. Daniel couldn't breathe, couldn't move. All he could see was Sarah's perfume bottle still sitting on his dresser because he couldn't bear to throw it away. The same scent. Victoria wore the same scent. Victoria stood up slowly. "I should go." "No." Emma grabbed her hand. "Stay, please. Daddy has to work, but I'm really good at being quiet, and I could show you my pictures." Victoria looked at Daniel. He saw the question in her eyes, saw her waiting for him to tell her to leave, to not intrude, to let them have their space. But Emma was smiling, really smiling, the kind of smile he hadn't seen since Sarah died. "Stay," he whispered. "Please." So she did. For the next hour, Victoria sat with Emma at the small library table, coloring quietly while Daniel finished his work. Every time he glanced over, he saw his daughter's head bent close to this stranger's not a stranger anymore. He realized, talking softly, laughing, sharing crayons. When his shift ended, he found them both giggling over a drawing Emma had made, 3 stick figures holding hands. "This is me," Emma explained, pointing to the smallest figure. "This is Daddy, and this is you." Victoria's hands trembled slightly as she touched the paper. "It's beautiful," she said, her voice rough. They walked out together into the cool Boston evening. Emma held both their hands, swinging between them like she'd done this 1,000 times before. "Can Victoria come to dinner?" Emma asked. Daniel started to say no, started to explain that Victoria was busy, important, had better things to do than eat boxed pasta in their cramped apartment. But Victoria squeezed Emma's hand. "I'd love to," she said, and Daniel realized with a sharp clarity that scared him. This woman wasn't just being kind anymore. This was becoming something else, something real. The apartment was smaller than Victoria had imagined, not in a pitying way she'd lived in worse, but in a way that made her chest ache. One bedroom that Emma clearly shared with Daniel based on the twin bed pushed against the wall next to a larger mattress. A kitchen barely wide enough for 2 people to stand side by side. Toys organized neatly in a cardboard box because there was no room for a proper toy chest. But it was clean, loved. Every surface showed care. "I'm sorry it's not much," Daniel said, already pulling out the box of pasta from the cabinet. "Stop apologizing." Victoria set her purse down on the small table. "I grew up in a place half this size with 4 siblings. This is home. That matters more than square footage." Emma was already dragging her to the couch, showing her a photo album. "This is Mommy," she said, pointing to a picture of a woman with kind eyes and a bright smile. "She's in heaven now, but Daddy says she can still see us." Victoria's throat closed. Sarah Carter had been beautiful. Not in a movie star way, but in the way that mattered. You could see the love radiating from every photo. Her hand on Daniel's shoulder, her face pressed against baby Emma's cheek, her eyes always finding the camera like she wanted to capture every moment because she somehow knew time was precious. "She was lovely," Victoria whispered. "She made the best pancakes," Emma said matter-of-factly. "Daddy tries, but they always burn." From the kitchen, Daniel called out, "I heard that." Emma giggled. Victoria found herself smiling despite the sadness pressing against her ribs. "You want to help me set the table?" Emma asked. "I'd be honored." They worked together in comfortable silence, Emma directing where everything should go with the seriousness of a general planning battle strategy. Fork on the left, knife on the right, napkins folded just so. "Mommy taught me," Emma explained. "She said, even if you don't have fancy things, you can still make it special." Victoria had to turn away, pretending to examine the bookshelf. Her eyes burned. She'd built an empire on ruthless efficiency and emotional detachment. She'd fired people without flinching. She'd negotiated $1 million deals without breaking a sweat. But this 7-year-old talking about her dead mother's pancakes was unraveling her completely. Dinner was simple: pasta with jarred sauce, frozen vegetables heated in the microwave, garlic bread that was mostly just regular bread with butter and garlic powder. It was the best meal Victoria had eaten in months. "Tell Victoria about your science project," Daniel prompted Emma. Emma launched into an enthusiastic explanation of volcanoes that involved a lot of hand gestures and sound effects. Victoria listened, asked questions, and watched Daniel watch his daughter with so much love it physically hurt to witness. This was what she'd given up. This warmth, this connection, the choice to build a company instead of a family had seemed so clear at 30. At 46, sitting in this cramped apartment with these two people who barely knew her, the cost suddenly felt astronomical. "Victoria, you okay?" Daniel's voice pulled her back. She realized she'd been staring at her plate. "I'm fine, just thinking." About what? The truth sat on her tongue. About how lonely my penthouse feels. About how I eat takeout alone every night. About how I can't remember the last time someone asked me to stay for dinner. "About how lucky you are," she said instead. Daniel's expression shifted. "Lucky. You have each other. That's worth more than money can buy." "Money helps, though," he said quietly. "Money pays for medicine when your kid gets sick. Money keeps the lights on. Money means you don't have to choose between dinner and dignity." The bitterness in his voice surprised her. "You're right," Victoria said. "I'm sorry. That was thoughtless." "No, Daniel rubbed his face. "I'm sorry. That was unfair. You've been nothing but kind." Emma looked between them, her little face worried. "Are you fighting?" "No, sweetie," they said in unison, then laughed. "Daddy fights with himself sometimes," Emma told Victoria seriously. "In his head. He thinks I don't notice, but I do." Daniel went very still. "Emma, that's not—" "It's okay, Daddy. Mommy used to do it too, before she got really sick. She told me sometimes grown-ups have loud thoughts that make them sad." Victoria watched Daniel's face crumple and rebuild itself in the space of a heartbeat. He reached across the table and squeezed Emma's hand. "You're too smart for your own good. You know that." Mommy said that too. They finished dinner in quieter tones, but the tension had shifted into something softer. Emma asked Victoria about her work, and Victoria found herself simplifying complex business concepts into stories a 7-year-old could understand. "So you make food for babies?" Emma asked. "I try to make sure all food is healthy and safe, especially for kids whose parents are working really hard like your daddy." "That's nice," Emma yawned. "I think that's important work." Daniel started clearing plates. "Bedtime munchkin." "But Victoria's still here." "Victoria can stay while you brush your teeth and get ready for bed. Then maybe if she has time, she could say goodnight." Emma's face lit up. She grabbed Victoria's hand. "Will you help me pick pajamas?" Victoria glanced at Daniel. He nodded, looking uncertain but hopeful. "Lead the way," Victoria said. Emma's side of the shared bedroom was a tiny corner paradise. Glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, drawings taped to the walls, a stuffed rabbit that looked well-loved and slightly bald in places. "That's Mr. Hoppy," Emma said, pulling out pajamas covered in unicorns. "Mommy gave him to me when I was born. Daddy says I used to chew his ears." Victoria sat on the edge of the twin bed while Emma changed in the bathroom. When she came back, teeth brushed and face washed, she climbed into bed and pulled the covers up. "Will you tuck me in like Mommy used to?" Victoria's hands shook as she pulled the blanket tight around Emma's small body, the way her own mother had done a lifetime ago. "Like this." "Perfect." Emma clutched Mr. Hoppy close. "Victoria, yes. Are you going to be Daddy's friend for a long time?" The question knocked the air from Victoria's lungs. "I'd like to be, if that's okay with you." "It's okay. I think Mommy would like you. You're nice and you smell pretty and you don't talk to me like I'm a baby." "You're definitely not a baby." Emma yawned again. "Daddy's scared." "Scared of what?" "Of being happy." He thinks if he's happy, it means he forgot Mommy. But that's silly. Mommy told him to find happiness. I heard her before she went to sleep the last time. Tears spilled down Victoria's cheeks before she could stop them. Emma reached up with one small hand and wiped them away. It's okay to cry. Daddy cries sometimes too. He thinks I don't hear him, but I do. Victoria kissed Emma's forehead. You are the bravest person I've ever met. Good night, Victoria. Good night, sweetheart. When Victoria emerged, she found Daniel standing at the sink, hands braced against the counter, head bowed. He didn't turn around when she approached. She's asleep, Victoria said softly. Thank you for being so good with her. Daniel, I need to tell you something. Now he turned. His eyes were red. I can't have children, Victoria said. The words came out flat, practiced from years of saying them to explain her choices, her priorities, her life. Medical issue, found out when I was 32. By then I'd already decided the business came first, so it felt like the universe confirming my choice. Victoria, let me finish, please. She wrapped her arms around herself. I told myself I was fine with it, that I'd made my peace, built my empire instead of a family. But tonight, tucking Emma in, I realized I'd been lying to myself for 14 years. Daniel moved closer. You don't owe me this explanation. Yes, I do. Because you need to know why I'm here, why I keep showing up. It's not pity, Daniel. It's not charity. It's... Her voice broke. It's that being with you and Emma makes me feel like maybe I didn't miss everything. Maybe there's still time to be part of something real. He was right in front of her now, close enough that she could see the silver threading through his dark hair, the tired lines around his eyes, the faint scar on his jaw she'd never noticed before. I'm terrified, he whispered. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of feeling something again after 3 years of just surviving. His hands came up, hesitated, then settled on her shoulders. Sarah told me to find happiness. Her literal last words were, promise me you'll try to be happy. And I promised, but I haven't tried. Not once. Until now. Daniel, I'm not ready for this. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. My life is a mess. I'm broke. I'm broken. I work 2 jobs and still can't make rent half the time. I have a daughter who needs me more than anything and I'm barely holding it together. You deserve so much better than this disaster. Victoria's hands came up to frame his face. Stop telling me what I deserve. I'm 46 years old and I've spent my entire life letting other people define my worth. Let me decide this. Let me decide you're worth it. Why? The question was barely a breath. Because you stayed in that chair. Because you kept your dignity when someone tried to take it. Because you iron your shirts 3 times and you read to your daughter every night and you're scared of being happy, but you're trying anyway. That's why. They stood there, foreheads pressed together, breathing the same air. I don't know how to do this, Daniel said. Neither do I. But maybe we figure it out together. He kissed her, soft and tentative and tasting of garlic bread and salt from tears neither of them had realized they were crying. It wasn't a movie kiss. It was careful and scared and full of 3 years of grief, meeting 14 years of loneliness. When they pulled apart, Victoria was shaking. I should go, she whispered, before I can't. Okay. But neither of them moved. Finally, Victoria stepped back. She grabbed her purse, her coat. Daniel walked her to the door. Same time next week, she asked. The cafe? Yes, please. And Daniel, you can call me any time, even just to talk. Even at 3 in the morning when I can't sleep. Especially then. She left before she could change her mind, before she could turn around and beg to stay, before she could completely lose herself in the way he looked at her like she was something precious. The elevator ride down felt eternal. Her driver was waiting, but Victoria waved him off and started walking. She needed the cold air, needed to clear her head. Her phone rang 20 minutes later. Victoria, Daniel's voice, rough and uncertain. I'm here. I needed to hear your voice to make sure tonight was real." She stopped walking right there in the middle of the sidewalk while Boston moved around her. It was real. "Good, that's good. Good night, Victoria." "Good night, Daniel." She stood there for a long time after he hung up, staring at her phone, feeling like something fundamental had shifted in her universe. The next morning, Victoria arrived at her office at 6 a.m. like always. But instead of diving into emails, she pulled up her company's scholarship program. Sterling Organics offered grants to employees and community members pursuing education in nutrition, healthcare, and social services. She called her HR director. "Margaret, I need you to pull up our current scholarship recipients, and I want to know if we have any partnerships with medical technician programs in the Northeast." "Specific reason? I'm thinking about expanding our community investment, particularly for single parents trying to better their situations." There was a pause. "Victoria, are you feeling all right? You sound different." "I'm fine, better than fine. Just do it, please." 2 hours later, Margaret appeared in her doorway with a stack of folders. Oregon Health Institute has a stellar medical tech program. 18 months fully accredited high job placement rate. They've reached out to us before about partnership opportunities, but we never followed up. Victoria took the folder, scanned the details, felt her heart beat faster. "Set up a call with their director. I want to create a full scholarship. Tuition, housing, stipend, childcare assistance if needed. The works. Budget for that would be, I don't care, make it happen." Margaret left looking confused but determined. Victoria stared at the paperwork. She was getting ahead of herself. Way ahead. Daniel hadn't even mentioned wanting to go back to school. This was crazy. Presumptuous, overstepping every boundary that existed. She called him anyway. "Hey," he answered, sounding breathless. "Sorry, I'm at work. Loading dock is crazy today." "I won't keep you. Do you have plans Saturday afternoon?" "Emma, too. We usually go to the park if it's nice." "Why?" "Sterling Organics is hosting a family day. Food, games, nothing fancy. I thought you might want to come. Emma could play with other kids. You could relax for a few hours." Silence. "Daniel, you don't have to keep doing this." "Doing what?" "Trying to save me, fix me, whatever this is." Victoria closed her eyes. "That's not what I'm doing." "Then what are you doing?" "I'm trying to spend time with someone I care about. Is that allowed?" Another pause. Longer. "Yeah," he said finally. "Yeah, that's allowed. We'll be there." Saturday came with clear skies and unseasonable warmth. The Sterling Organics Family Day was held at a park near the Charles River with food trucks and face painting and a ridiculous bouncy castle that Emma made a beeline for the second they arrived. Daniel stood awkwardly at the edge, hands in to his pockets, clearly out of place among Victoria's employees and their families. "Relax," Victoria said, appearing at his elbow with 2 cups of coffee. "Nobody's judging you." "Everyone's staring. They're staring at me because I never come to these things. You're just collateral damage." He took the coffee. "You really don't do the social thing, do you?" "I'm very good at speeches and handshakes, small talk and genuine connection." "Not my forte." "Could have fooled me." She bumped his shoulder with hers. "You make it easy." They watched Emma bounce with wild abandon, her laughter carrying across the park. "She's happy," Daniel said quietly. "Really happy. I haven't seen her like this since—" "I know. Thank you. Stop thanking me for caring about you. It's insulting." He looked at her, then really looked, and something in his expression made her breath catch. "What? I think I'm falling for you," he said, "and it terrifies me." Before Victoria could respond, a woman approached one of her senior managers, looking apologetic. "Victoria, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation with the Oregon facility. They need you on the phone." Victoria wanted to scream. Instead, she smiled professionally. "Give me 5 minutes." The call took 20. By the time she got back, Emma was showing Daniel a butterfly painted on her face, and he was laughing, the kind of deep, genuine laugh that transformed his whole face. Victoria stopped just watching them. this beautiful broken man and his brave daughter existing in a moment of pure joy. She wanted to give them the world. She wanted to give them everything she'd never had. She wanted to give them hope. "Victoria," Emma spotted her and came running. "Look, I'm a butterfly. You're the most beautiful butterfly I've ever seen." Emma grabbed her hand, then grabbed Daniel's, pulling them both toward the food trucks. "Come on, they have pizza." As they walked through the park, hands linked through Emma's, Victoria felt Daniel's thumb brush against hers. Small, tentative, a promise neither of them was ready to voice yet. But it was there, and for now, that was enough. That night, after Emma was asleep and Daniel was alone in the apartment, that suddenly felt less empty than it had in years, his phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. "I meant what I said today." He stared at the message for a long time before typing back. "Which part?" "All of it, but especially the part where I said you make it easy." His fingers hovered over the keyboard. 3 years of grief and loneliness and barely surviving screamed at him to be careful, to protect himself, to not let anyone close enough to hurt him again. But Emma's voice echoed in his head. "Daddy's scared of being happy." "I'm scared," he typed. "Me too." "What are we doing, Victoria?" The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I think we're trying. Isn't that what you promised Sarah to try?" Daniel's vision blurred. He set the phone down and pressed his palms against his eyes. The memory came whether he wanted it or not. Sarah in that hospital bed, so thin he could see every bone in her hand as she gripped his. "Promise me," she'd whispered, her voice barely there. "Promise me you'll try to be happy. Emma needs a happy daddy, not a sad one. I can't do this without you." "Yes, you can. You're stronger than you think, and someday when you're ready, you'll let someone else in. Promise me you'll try." He'd promised, but he'd lied, or thought he had, until a woman in a perfect suit paid for his dinner and really saw him when he thought he was invisible. Daniel picked up his phone. "Yeah, that's what I promised. I'm trying." "Good. Now get some sleep. You work the early shift tomorrow." "How do you remember that?" "I pay attention. Remember." He fell asleep with his phone on from his chest, feeling lighter than he had in 3 years. The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm that felt both natural and surreal. Victoria showed up at the library every Tuesday and Thursday when Emma did homework. She brought coloring books, sometimes pastries from the cafe, always herself. This strange combination of corporate CEO and woman who'd somehow forgotten how to be alone until she met them. They didn't talk about what they were, didn't define it. Daniel was terrified that naming it would make it disappear like a soap bubble popped by careless fingers. But Emma had no such fears. "Is Victoria your girlfriend?" she asked one morning while Daniel braided her hair, his hands stilled. "Why do you ask?" "Because Jenny at school says when grown-ups hold hands and smile a lot, that means they're boyfriend and girlfriend. You and Victoria smile a lot." "It's complicated, baby." "Why?" "Because," he secured the braid with an elastic, "because Daddy loved Mommy very much, and sometimes it feels wrong to care about someone else." Emma turned around, her face serious. "But Mommy said you should." "I heard her, Daddy. She said she wanted you to find someone who makes you smile." "You were only 4. How do you remember?" "I remember everything about Mommy. Her voice, her smell, the way she sang me songs. And I remember her telling you it was okay to love again." Daniel pulled his daughter close, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "When did you get so wise?" "I'm 7.5. That's basically almost 8. He laughed, despite the tears threatening to spill. "You're right, basically an adult." "So is Victoria your girlfriend?" "I don't know yet, but I like her a lot. Is that okay?" Emma pulled back and cupped his face in her small hands, mimicking the gesture Victoria had used. "Daddy, it's more than okay. It's good. You deserve good things." Out of the mouths of babes. That afternoon, Daniel called Victoria from his break at the warehouse. "What would you say if I asked you to dinner, like a real dinner? Just us, no Emma, no work talk, a date." Silence, then quietly, "I'd say yes, but Daniel, are you sure?" "No, but I'm trying anyway. When Saturday Mrs. Chen can watch Emma?" "Saturday's perfect. I'll pick you up at 7. "Victoria, I can't afford anywhere nice. I'm not asking you to pay. I'm asking you to show up. That's all I need." Saturday came with a nervousness Daniel hadn't felt since high school. He changed shirts 4 times. Emma watched from her bed, offering commentary. "The blue one makes you look nice." "You think?" "Yeah, it matches your eyes. Mommy used to say that." He chose the blue one. Victoria arrived exactly at 7 in a dress that made Daniel forget how to breathe. Not fancy, just simple and elegant, and so completely her that he stood there staring like an idiot. "You look beautiful," he managed. "You look terrified." "That too." Emma hugged them both goodbye. Mrs. Chen winked at Daniel like she knew exactly what was happening. Victoria took him to a small Italian place in the North End. Not expensive, but warm and intimate with candlelight that made everything feel softer. "I almost canceled 3 times today," Victoria admitted over wine. "Why? Because this feels important, and I haven't done important in a very long time." "What do you usually do?" "Casual, efficient, men who understand that my career comes first and don't expect more than I can give." She turned her wine glass. "Which is why I'm always alone." "You're not alone now." "No, I'm not." She met his eyes. "That scares me." "Me too." They sat with that truth between them, fragile and honest. "Tell me something true," Victoria said. "Something you've never told anyone." Daniel considered lying, deflecting, but something about the way she looked at him, open and vulnerable and brave, made him want to match it. "Sometimes I resent Emma." Victoria's expression didn't change. "Go on." "Not her, never her, but the situation. Sarah got sick, and I became a single parent overnight. I was 39 years old, and suddenly I'm doing pigtails and parent-teacher conferences and trying to explain why Mommy's never coming home. I gave up everything, my job, my friends, my entire life to be her world. And some days I look at my daughter and I love her so much it physically hurts. And then I think about everything I lost and I feel this rage. This terrible burning rage at the universe for taking Sarah and leaving me to do this alone." He stopped, horrified at what he'd just said. "I'm a terrible father." "No." Victoria's hand covered his. "You're an honest one. Love and resentment can exist in the same space, Daniel. It doesn't make you terrible. It makes you human. Do you resent your choice, not having kids?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I resent that it wasn't really a choice. The medical issue made the decision for me, and I built my entire identity around not needing what I couldn't have. But meeting Emma," her voice cracked, "meeting her showed me what I've been pretending doesn't matter, and that hurts in ways I didn't expect. I'm sorry. Don't be. Pain means you're alive, means you're feeling something real." They talked through dinner, through dessert, through the coffee that appeared without them ordering it. They talked about Sarah, about Victoria's failed marriage at 25 to a man who wanted a housewife when she wanted a boardroom. They talked about loneliness and fear and the weight of other people's expectations. By the time they left, Daniel felt like he'd been cracked open and carefully put back together. Victoria drove him home but didn't drop him at the curb. She parked and turned off the engine. "Can I tell you something true now?" she asked. "Please." "I've been looking into medical technician programs." Daniel's heart stopped. "What?" "There's a scholarship through Sterling Organics. Full tuition, housing, stipend, childcare assistance. 18 months and you'd have a degree, a real career stability for Emma." "Victoria, let me finish. The program is in Oregon. It's one of the best in the country. I've already spoken to the director. If you want it, it's yours." The world tilted sideways. "You did this for me. I did this because you deserve a future that isn't just survival. Because Emma deserves a father who isn't working himself to death. Because watching you struggle when I have the power to help is killing me." Daniel couldn't breathe. "Oregon, that's 3,000 miles away. I know. For 18 months, I know. Victoria, this thing between us just started, and you want me to leave? She turned to face him fully, and he saw tears streaming down her face. I want you to have the life you deserve, even if it means I lose you, especially if it means I lose you, because that's what love is, Daniel. It's wanting someone's happiness more than your own. Love. The word came out strangled. Yes, love, I'm in love with you. I'm in love with Emma. I'm in love with the family you've built from ashes and determination, and I love you enough to let you go, if it means you get the future you're fighting for. Daniel was crying now too, not caring that they were parked outside his building where anyone could see. I can't do this. I can't leave you, not after I just found you. You have to, for Emma, for yourself. What about us? There is no us if you stay here drowning in poverty and exhaustion. There's only you barely surviving and me watching it happen. I can't do that, Daniel. I can't watch you break yourself apart when I have the power to give you something better. 18 months is nothing. It's a blink. And when you come back, you'll have a degree and a career, and you won't have to work 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. Emma will have stability. You'll have a future. And you... Victoria smiled through her tears. I'll be here, waiting, if you want me. If I want you, Victoria, The words caught in his throat. He'd only ever said them to one woman. Saying them to another felt like betrayal and redemption all at once. I love you too. That's the problem. How can I leave someone I love? Because I'm asking you to. Because Emma needs this. Because you need this. She cupped his face. Take the scholarship, Daniel. Go to Oregon. Build the future you deserve. And if we're meant to be, we'll find our way back to each other. And if we're not, then at least I'll know I loved you enough to let you fly. He kissed her, then desperate and salt-stained and full of goodbye before he was ready to say it. She kissed him back like she was trying to memorize the shape of his mouth, the taste of his tears, the feeling of his hands in her hair. When they finally pulled apart, Daniel was shaking. I need to think about it. Take all the time you need. The scholarship is there whenever you're ready. He got out of the car on unsteady legs, turned back. Victoria. Yeah. Thank you for seeing me, for loving me enough to break your own heart. You're worth it, she said simply. He watched her drive away until the tail lights disappeared, then climbed the stairs to his apartment, where Mrs. Chen was asleep on the couch, and Emma was dreaming peacefully. Daniel stood in the doorway of their shared bedroom, watching his daughter sleep. What do I do, Sarah? He whispered back. How do I choose between the woman I love and the future our daughter deserves? But Sarah was gone, and the only voice that answered was his own. You promised to try. You promised to be happy. You promised to give Emma the best life possible. Maybe all 3 promises pointed in the same direction. Maybe letting go was the bravest thing he could do. The next morning, Emma found him at the kitchen table with the scholarship paperwork spread in front of him. What's that? A chance, baby. A chance for Daddy to go back to school, to learn something that would help us have a better life. Like what? Medical technician. I'd work in hospitals, help doctors take care of people. Emma climbed into his lap. Would we move? For a little while. 18 months. To Oregon. Is that far? Very far. She was quiet, processing. Then, would Victoria come? Daniel's heart cracked. No, sweetie, Victoria has to stay here for her work. But you love her. It wasn't a question. Yeah, I do. And she loves us. Yes. Emma twisted to look at him, her pure face so serious it hurt. Then why can't she come? Because sometimes loving someone means making hard choices. Mommy taught me that. Mommy went to heaven even though she loved us. That was a hard choice. She didn't want to go baby. She had to. I know. But she went because she loved us enough to stop hurting. Emma touched his face. Is going to Oregon like that? Are you hurting because you want to give me a better life? When did his 7-year-old become so wise? Something like that. Then we should go, and Victoria will wait for us, because that's what people do. When they love each other, they wait. Daniel hugged her so tight she squeaked. When did you get so smart? I told you, I'm 7.5, basically 8. He called Victoria that afternoon. "I'll do it. I'll take the scholarship." Silence, then a shaky breath. "You're sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway. For Emma, for us, for the future I want to give her." "When do you start?" "Program begins September 1st. That's 3 months." "3 months," she echoed. "We have 3 months." "Victoria, I don't know how to do this, how to fall in love with someone and then leave them. We take it one day at a time. We make the most of every moment. And we trust that if this is real, it'll survive the distance. And if it doesn't, then at least we had something beautiful for a little while. That's more than most people get." They spent those 3 months living in stolen moments. Victoria showed up at the library every Tuesday and Thursday, like clockwork. They had dinner at Daniel's apartment every Saturday, the three of them building something that felt like family. On Sundays, when Mrs. Chen could watch, Emma, Victoria, and Daniel would walk along the Charles River holding hands and pretending they had forever. But time moved relentlessly forward. Daniel gave notice at both jobs, packed up their small apartment, explained to Emma that they were starting an adventure. "Will we come back?" she asked. "Of course. Promise. I promise, baby." The night before they left, Victoria came for dinner one last time. Emma had made a paper chain, 52 links, one for each week they'd be gone. "So we can count down until we come home," Emma explained, presenting it to Victoria with the solemnity of a knight offering a sword. Victoria took it with trembling hands. "It's perfect. I'll hang it in my office and remove one link every week. And when there's no more links, we'll be home." "Yes." They ate quietly. Nobody had much appetite. Afterward, Emma insisted on showing Victoria her room one last time, now mostly empty except for essentials they couldn't pack. "I'm gonna miss you," Emma said, hugging Victoria around the waist. "I'm going to miss you too, so much. But you'll wait for us, every day." "Good, because Daddy needs you. He's happy when you're around, I can tell." Victoria knelt down to Emma's level. "Can I tell you a secret?" Emma nodded. "I need him too, and I need you. You both make me remember what it feels like to be part of something special. We're a family," Emma said simply, "even if we're far apart." "Yes, we are." After Emma went to bed, Daniel and Victoria stood on the small balcony, the Boston skyline spread before them. "I don't know how to say goodbye to you," Daniel said. "Then don't. Say see you later. 18 months is a long time. It'll go fast. You'll be busy with school with Emma. Time moves differently when you're building something." He turned to her. "Come with us." "Daniel, I know it's crazy. I know you have your company, your life here, but come with us. We'll figure it out." Victoria's eyes filled. "I can't. The company's at a critical stage. We're expanding into 3 new markets. I have 800 employees depending on me. If I leave now, everything I've built could collapse. So I'm supposed to choose between you and Emma's future. You're not choosing. You're doing what's right for your daughter. That's not a choice, Daniel. That's being a parent. I love you. I love you too. That's why I'm staying. Because loving you means supporting your dreams, not holding you back from them." They held each other as the city lights blinked on one by one, as the temperature dropped, as the reality settled over them like snow. Tomorrow, Daniel and Emma would board a plane to Portland. They'd start a new life in a strange city. Daniel would sit in classrooms for the first time in 20 years, feeling old and out of place and terrified. But he'd do it for Emma, for their future, and Victoria would stay in Boston, running her empire, sleeping alone in her penthouse, counting down paper chain links, and wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. "Loving someone doesn't mean keeping them," she whispered against his chest. "It means letting them fly. Then fly with me. I can't, but I'll be here when you land." It would have to be enough. The airport goodbye was brutal. Emma clung to Victoria's neck, crying in a way she hadn't cried since Sarah's funeral. Daniel stood there with boarding passes in hand, watching the two people he loved most break each other's hearts and wondered if he was making a terrible mistake. "I don't want to go," Emma sobbed. "Please don't make me go." Victoria was crying too, holding Emma tight, her face buried in the child's hair. "You have to go, sweetheart. Your daddy needs to learn important things so he can take care of you better, and I'll be right here waiting, every single day." "But what if you forget about us?" "Never. Not in a million years." Victoria pulled back, wiping Emma's tears with shaking hands. "You know what I'm going to send you letters. Real letters in the mail like in the old days. One every week. And you can write back and tell me about all your adventures. Real letters, with stamps and everything." Emma sniffled. "Okay, I can do that." Victoria stood, and Daniel saw the effort it took her to let go. She turned to him, and he saw everything he felt reflected in her eyes. "Take care of each other," she whispered. "We will. And Daniel, don't call me every day. It'll make this harder. What? Focus on school, on Emma, on building your future. I'll be here when you're ready. Victoria, trust me, please." He kissed her one last time, tasting salt and goodbye, and promises neither of them was sure they could keep. "I love you. I love you too. Now go before I beg you to stay." Daniel took Emma's hand and walked toward security. He turned back once saw Victoria standing there alone in the middle of the terminal, and it took everything in him not to run back. Emma waved until Victoria was just a small figure in the distance. "She's gone, Daddy." "Yeah, baby, she's gone." Oregon was beautiful in a way that made Daniel homesick. Everything was green and clean and so different from Boston that he felt like he'd landed on another planet. The apartment Sterling Organics had arranged was modest, but comfortable, 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen close to Emma's new school. That first night unpacking boxes in silence, Emma asked, "Do you think Victoria misses us already?" Daniel looked at his phone. No messages, no calls, just silence. "Yeah, I think she does." "Then why doesn't she call?" "Because sometimes missing someone and talking to them makes the missing worse. Sometimes you have to just feel it until it gets better." Emma considered this. "Does it get better?" "I don't know yet, baby. I hope so." School started 2 weeks later. Daniel sat in a classroom with students 10 years younger, feeling ancient and out of place. The professor was talking about anatomy, using words Daniel barely understood, and panic rose in his throat. What had he done? He'd given up 2 jobs, moved his daughter across the country, left the woman he loved for this, to fail spectacularly in front of a room full of kids who belonged here in ways he never would. His phone buzzed during break. A text from Victoria. "First day of school, you've got this." Just 4 words, but they settled something in his chest. He replied, terrified. "Good, means you care. Now go learn something." That became their pattern. Victoria didn't call. She texted short, encouraging messages that arrived at random times, before exams, after long days, in the middle of the night when Daniel couldn't sleep because the material was too hard and Emma had cried herself to sleep missing Boston. And true to her word, letters came every week. Real letters on heavy stationery with Victoria's precise handwriting. She wrote about work, about the weather, about the cafe they used to visit. Nothing earth-shattering, just proof she was thinking about them. Emma wrote back religiously, her spelling terrible but her heart enormous. "Dear Victoria, I miss you. School is okay. I made a friend named Zoe. Daddy studies all the time and he looks tired but he says he's happy. Are you happy, love, Emma?" Victoria's response came 3 days later. "Dear Emma, I miss you too more than words can say. I'm proud of you for making a friend. Tell Daddy to rest sometimes. Being tired and happy is good, but being rested and happy is better. Am I happy? I'm working on it. Some days are harder than others, but knowing you and your daddy are building something special makes the hard days easier. Love always, Victoria." Daniel read that letter 3 times, his chest aching. The weeks blurred into months. Daniel threw himself into studying with the kind of desperation that came from knowing this was his one shot. Emma adjusted to her new school-made friends, stopped crying quite so much at bedtime. Every Sunday they removed a link from the paper chain and counted how many were left. 48, 47, 46, the numbers felt impossibly large. Daniel called Victoria once 3 months in at 2 in the morning Boston time. He didn't mean to. He was drunk on exhaustion and loneliness, and his fingers found her number before his brain could stop them. She answered on the first ring, voice alert. Daniel, what's wrong? I can't do this. Can't do what? Any of it. The studying is killing me. Emma cries every night. I haven't slept more than 4 hours at a time in weeks, and I miss you so much I can't breathe. Silence. Then, where's Emma now? Asleep. Good. Now listen to me. You can do this. You are doing this. You've completed 3 months of an 18-month program. That's a quarter done, Daniel. A quarter. It feels like forever. I know, but you've already survived the hardest part starting. Everything else is just persistence. I want to come home. No, you don't. You want this to be easier, but easy doesn't build futures. Hard does. He laughed bitterly. When did you become a motivational speaker? When the man I love called me at 2 a.m., ready to give up on himself. I won't let you quit, Daniel, not when you're this close to everything you've worked for. What about us? How do we survive another 15 months of this? The same way we've survived the last 3, 1 day at a time, 1 text at a time, 1 letter at a time. That's not enough. Then what do you need? The question hung between them. I need to hear you say you're still waiting, that this isn't just words, that when I come back you'll still want this. Victoria's voice broke. Daniel Carter, I think about you every morning when I wake up, and every night before I sleep. I have your daughter's drawings on my office wall. I remove a paper chain link every Sunday, and I count the weeks until you come home. I'm not just waiting, I'm holding my breath. So yes, I'm still here. I'll always be here. Daniel closed his eyes, tears sliding down his face. I love you. I love you too. Now go to sleep. You have class in 6 hours. Victoria, yeah, thank you for not letting me give up. That's what love is, not letting each other fall. He hung up feeling steadier, lighter, like maybe he could survive this after all. But the months crawled by with brutal slowness. Winter came, and with it Emma's 8th birthday. Victoria sent a package, a beautiful locket with a picture of the 3 of them from the Sterling Organics family day. Emma wore it every day. So Victoria's always close to my heart, she explained. Daniel's exams were relentless. He studied until his eyes burned, until his brain felt like mush, until he couldn't remember what it felt like to not be exhausted. But his grades were good. Better than good. Top of his class. His professor pulled him aside one day. Carter, you've got real talent for this. Ever think about specializing? I'm just trying to survive, Professor. I'm serious. You've got an instinct for patient care that most students never develop. You should consider applying for the Advanced Certification Program. That's another 6 months. It's also double the salary when you're done. Daniel thought about it. 6 more months away from Victoria. 6 more months of Emma missing home. But double the salary meant real stability, meant never having to choose between dinner and dignity again. He called Victoria that night. There's an opportunity, advanced certification, 6 more months. Take it. I haven't even explained, you don't need to. If it's an opportunity to build something better, take it. We've already waited this long. 6 more months won't kill us. Victoria, I mean it. Don't let me be the reason you settle for less than you deserve. When I come back, I'm never leaving you again. Good, because I'm getting tired of sleeping alone. The honesty in her voice made his breath catch. Tell me something true, he said, echoing their first real date. I bought a bigger apartment. What? 3 bedrooms. 1 for you, 1 for Emma, 1 for me. I know it's presumptuous. I know we haven't talked about living together, but I wake up every morning in this penthouse that's too big and too empty, and I imagine what it would be like to have you both here. So I bought a place, just in case. Daniel sat down hard on his bed. You bought an apartment for us. I bought an apartment for the family I hope we become. if that's what you want. No pressure, just hope. Victoria Sterling, when I get back to Boston, I'm going to marry you. Silence, long enough that he thought the connection had dropped. Victoria, you can't say things like that over the phone. Why not? Because I can't kiss you when you say things like that, and I really want to kiss you right now. 15 months, that's all that's left. 15 months and I'm coming home. I'll be counting every single day. Spring came to Oregon with rain that never seemed to stop. Emma grew 3 inches and lost 2 teeth. Daniel passed his advanced certification with honors. The program director offered him a job at a hospital in Portland, good money, benefits, security. Daniel turned it down. I'm going back to Boston. There are fewer opportunities there. You'd be taking a pay cut. I don't care. My family's in Boston. Your daughter's right here. My family, Daniel repeated, is in Boston. The director smiled knowingly. She must be something special. She is. 2 months before completion, Victoria stopped removing links from the paper chain. Daniel noticed because Emma mentioned it in her weekly letter. Victoria didn't take a link off this week. Is she okay? Daniel called immediately, breaking their unspoken rule about phone calls. Victoria answered, and he could hear it in her voice. She'd been crying. What's wrong? Nothing, everything, I don't know. Talk to me. What if you come back and this isn't what you thought it would be? What if 18 months apart destroyed whatever we had? What if I built this entire fantasy and the reality can't possibly measure up? Victoria, I'm terrified, Daniel. I've spent almost 2 years imagining our life together. But what if, when you get here, you realize I'm not what you want? What if Emma doesn't want to live with me? What if I'm terrible at being part of a family? Stop. I can't. I've been holding it together for so long, but I can't anymore. I miss you. I miss Emma. I miss the life we almost had. And I'm so scared that I pushed you away, and now you're going to realize you don't need me. Daniel's heart shattered. Listen to me very carefully. I need you. Emma needs you. We've survived 18 months of hell because we knew, you were waiting. You're not a fantasy, Victoria. You're the woman who paid for my dinner when I had nothing. You're the woman who saw me when I thought I was invisible. You're the woman who loved me enough to let me go so I could become the man who deserves you. Don't you dare give up now. I'm not giving up. I'm just scared. So am I. But we're doing it anyway. That's what we do, remember? We try. She laughed through tears. When did you become the strong one? I learned from the best. Victoria took a shaky breath. 8 weeks, that's all that's left. 8 weeks, and I'm coming home to you. Promise. I promise. The last 8 weeks moved both impossibly slow and terrifyingly fast. Daniel finished his final exams, completed his clinical hours, walked across a stage to receive his certification with Emma cheering from the audience. He'd done it. Against all odds, he'd actually done it. That night, packing boxes again, Emma asked, "Are you happy, Daddy?" "Yeah, baby, I am." "Good, because tomorrow we go home. Tomorrow we go home." But Daniel couldn't sleep. He lay awake thinking about Victoria, about the life they'd dreamed of, about whether reality could possibly live up to 18 months of longing. His phone buzzed at 3 a.m. "Victoria, I can't wait anymore. I'm coming to get you." "What?" "I'm at the airport. I'll be in Portland in 5 hours. I'm coming to get you and Emma, and we're driving home together, all of us, the way it should have been from the start." "Victoria, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. I've waited 18 months. I'm done waiting. I'm coming for my family." Daniel's throat closed. "We'll be ready." "Good." "And Daniel?" "Yeah, I love you. I never stopped loving you, not for one single day." "I love you too. See you soon." He hung up and looked at the boxes at the apartment that had been home for 18 months, at Emma sleeping peacefully in the next room. In 5 hours, Victoria would walk through that door. In 5 hours, their real life would finally begin. He couldn't wait. Daniel woke Emma at 6 a.m., his hands shaking as he helped her dress. "Why so early, Daddy?" Victoria's coming. She's flying here right now to take us home. Emma's eyes went wide. Really, today? Today, she was dressed in 3 minutes flat, bouncing on her toes while Daniel made coffee. He was too nervous to drink. Every sound outside made his heart jump. Every car that passed made him run to the window. And then at exactly 9:32 a.m., there was a knock on the door. Daniel opened it, and there she was. Victoria looked exhausted. Her hair was pulled back messily. She wore jeans and a sweater instead of her usual suit. No makeup. Dark circles under her eyes. She'd clearly come straight from the airport without stopping. She was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi." They stood there staring at each other like teenagers. 18 months of longing and fear and hope stretched between them like a live wire. Emma broke the spell by launching herself at Victoria with a shriek. "You came! You really came!" Victoria caught her, spinning her around, laughing and crying at the same time. "I told you I would. I'll always come for you." She set Emma down and looked at Daniel over his daughter's head. The question in her eyes was clear. Are we okay? Are we still us? Daniel crossed the space between them in 2 strides and kissed her. Not gentle, not tentative. He kissed her like a man who'd been drowning for 18 months and finally found air. Victoria kissed him back with the same desperation, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer like she was afraid he'd disappear. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Victoria pressed her forehead to his. "You're really here," he said. "I couldn't wait anymore. I tried. I really tried to be patient and let you come to me. But last night I was sitting in that empty apartment with your daughter's drawings and that stupid paper chain, and I couldn't. Not one more day. I'm glad you came." Yeah, I was going crazy without you." Emma tugged on Victoria's hand. "Are we going home now?" Victoria knelt down. "We are, but first I need to ask you something important. Is it okay if I'm part of your family? Like really part of it? Living in the same house, eating breakfast together, helping with homework, all of it." Emma threw her arms around Victoria's neck. "I've been waiting for you to ask forever. Yes, 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 yes." Daniel's vision blurred. He turned away quickly, pretending to check the boxes. "We should get these loaded in the car." Victoria stood, wiping her own eyes. "I rented an SUV. Should fit everything." They spent the next hour packing the vehicle, the 3 of them working in synchronized chaos. Emma chattered non-stop, telling Victoria everything about Oregon, about school, about her friends, about how Daddy studied so hard he sometimes fell asleep at the kitchen table. "He did that." Victoria looked at Daniel. "A few times," he admitted. "You should have told me. I would have. What, flown out here to tuck me in, Victoria? You did enough. More than enough." She grabbed his hand. "It's never enough. Not when it comes to you." The drive back to Boston took five days. They could have flown, but Victoria insisted. "We've been apart for 18 months. I want every moment of the journey home." So they drove across America, the 3 of them, stopping at random roadside attractions and cheap motels and diners that served breakfast all day. Emma sat in the back making friendship bracelets, singing off-key to the radio. Daniel and Victoria took turns driving, their hands linked across the center console whenever they could. On the 3rd night in a motel somewhere in Nebraska, after Emma had fallen asleep between them, in the king bed, Victoria whispered, "I have something to tell you." "Good or bad?" "I don't know yet. I launched a new product line, baby food. It's called Hope's First Spoon. The entire concept is built around making healthy food accessible to single parents and low-income families. Every box has a tagline. What's the tagline? For the mothers who stayed hungry to feed hope. Daniel's throat closed. "Victoria, I did it because of you. Because of watching you skip meals so Emma could eat. Because of learning what real sacrifice looks like. The entire company almost revolted. They said it was too political, too emotional, not profitable enough. I didn't care. I pushed it through anyway." "How's it doing?" She smiled in the darkness. "It's our fastest growing product. Turns out people respond to authenticity, to seeing themselves in the messaging. We're expanding production 3 times over. You did that while I was gone. I had to do something with all that missing you. Figured I'd channel it into something that mattered. Daniel kissed her temple. You're incredible. I'm in love. There's a difference. Not really. You're both. They fell asleep tangled together with Emma, snoring softly between them, and Daniel thought this was what happiness felt like. Not the absence of problems, but the presence of people worth fighting for. Boston welcomed them with rain and traffic, and the most beautiful skyline Daniel had ever seen. Home, he was finally home. Victoria drove straight to the new apartment, a brownstone in the North End, close to Emma's old school, close to everything familiar. Ready? She asked, hands gripping the steering wheel. Terrified, Daniel admitted. Good, me too. The apartment was perfect. 3 bedrooms like Victoria had promised. Hardwood floors, big windows. A kitchen with enough counter space for 2 people to cook together. Emma's room was already set up with a new bed, new curtains, a desk for homework. When did you do all this? Daniel asked. Last month. I was so sure you'd say yes. If you didn't, I figured I'd have the world's most optimistic guest room. Emma was running from room to room, squealing. She stopped in Victoria's room, staring at the photos on the dresser. That's us, she said, pointing to a picture from the Sterling Organics family day. And that's Daddy at graduation. And that's the letter I sent you about my science fair project. You kept everything. Victoria came up behind her. Of course I did. You're my family. Are you going to marry Daddy? The question came out of nowhere. Daniel froze in the doorway. Victoria didn't hesitate. If he asks me, yes. Emma turned to Daniel. Well, ask her. Emma, that's not how... Daddy, you said you were going to marry her. I heard you on the phone, so ask her. Daniel looked at Victoria. She was smiling, tears already streaming down her face. I don't have a ring, he said helplessly. I don't care about a ring. I'm broke. Well, less broke than I was, but still. Daniel Carter, if you don't ask me right now, I'm going to ask you. Emma was bouncing. Do it, Daddy. Daniel crossed the room, took Victoria's hands in his. I don't have a speech prepared. I don't have a romantic plan. All I have is this. I love you. I've loved you since the night you paid for my dinner and saw me when I thought I was invisible. I love the way you show up, the way you love my daughter, the way you pushed me to be better, even when it broke your heart. So yeah, Victoria Sterling, will you marry me? Yes, she said, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, 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 Emma cheered. Daniel kissed Victoria while his daughter danced around them, and for the first time in 3 years, no, maybe ever, he felt complete. They settled into a rhythm over the next few weeks. Daniel started his new job at Massachusetts General Hospital. The pay was good, better than good, enough that he could finally breathe without constantly calculating which bills to pay first. Emma went back to her old school, reuniting with friends who'd missed her. She talked about Oregon sometimes, but always in past tense. Boston was home again. Victoria went back to Sterling Organics, but she came home every night. To them, to the family they were building, one dinner, one homework session, one bedtime story at a time. 3 months after they returned, Victoria's assistant called Daniel at work. Mr. Carter, I have a favor to ask on Ms. Sterling's behalf. Sure, what do you need? She's launching Hope's First Spoon officially next week. Big event. Press, investors, the works. She wants you and Emma there. Of course. What time? 7 p.m. And Mr. Carter, she's planning something. I'm not supposed to tell you, but I thought you should know. Planning what? I've already said too much. Just be there, and maybe dress nice. Daniel told Emma that night at dinner, we're going to Victoria's work thing next week. We need to look fancy. Emma's eyes lit up. Can I get a new dress? Victoria laughed. We'll go shopping this weekend, both of you. I don't need... Yes, you do. You're going to be on stage with me. What? I'm unveiling the product line, and I want my family with me when I do it. Victoria, that's a lot of pressure. Please, I can't do it without you. You're the reason it exists. How could he say no to that? The night of the launch, Daniel stood backstage in a new suit, watching Emma twirl in her purple dress, feeling completely out of his depth. "I don't belong here," he told Victoria. She took his face in her hands. "You belong exactly here, with me, always." The event was held on a rooftop in downtown Boston. Hundreds of people milled around press investors, Sterling Organics employees. Daniel recognized some faces from the nutrition workshop all those months ago. Victoria took the stage with confidence, Emma holding her hand, Daniel on her other side. "Thank you all for coming," she began. 2 years ago, I met someone who changed my life. A single father working 2 jobs, struggling to keep his daughter fed and his dignity intact. He taught me what real courage looks like, what sacrifice means, what love demands. Daniel's face burned. Everyone was looking at them. That encounter inspired our newest product line, Hope's First Spoon, affordable, nutritious baby food and meal options for families who are doing their best with limited resources. Every purchase funds our scholarship program for single parents pursuing education. Every box carries a promise you're not alone. We see you. We support you. The crowd applauded. Victoria pulled out one of the boxes, showing the design simple, warm, with the tagline clearly visible. "For the mothers who stayed hungry to feed hope," she read. "But it's also for the fathers, for every parent who's ever chosen between their own meal and their child's. For everyone who's fought to provide dignity along with dinner." She turned to Daniel. "This man taught me that kindness isn't about grand gestures. It's about seeing someone, really seeing them, and believing they deserve better even when they can't believe it themselves." Emma tugged Victoria's hand, whispering something. Victoria laughed. "My soon-to-be daughter wants me to tell you that her daddy is the bravest person she knows." "I agree, and I'm honored to build a life with both of them." The crowd applauded again, but Daniel barely heard it. All he could focus on was Victoria's hand in his, Emma's smile, the feeling that somehow, impossibly, everything had worked out. After the speeches, after the press photos, after the congratulations and networking, Victoria grabbed their hands. "Come with me, I have one more thing." She led them out of the event into a car waiting at the curb. "Where are we going?" Emma asked. "You'll see." 10 minutes later, they pulled up in front of the restaurant, the one where this all started, where Daniel had sat alone with $50 and a broken heart, where Victoria had paid for his meal and changed everything. "Why are we here?" Daniel asked. "Because I made reservations, for 3. They walked in, and the host led them to a table by the window, the same table where Daniel had sat alone, where Victoria had watched him from across the room, where kindness had sparked into something neither of them expected. Emma sat between them, already studying the menu with serious concentration. "This is fancy," she said. "You deserve fancy," Victoria told her. The waiter appeared. "What can I get you folks to drink?" "Water's fine," Daniel started. "Actually," Victoria interrupted, "we'll have your best sparkling cider. We're celebrating." "Celebrating what?" She reached into her purse and pulled out a small box. Daniel's heart stopped. "I know you asked me, and I said yes, but I wanted to ask you too, officially, with a ring this time." She opened the box. Inside was a simple gold band. "Daniel Carter, you walked into my life with nothing but dignity and hope. You showed me what it means to be brave, to fight for your family, to choose love even when it's terrifying. Will you marry me?" Emma was vibrating with excitement. Daniel took the ring with shaking hands. "You bought me a ring." "I bought us matching rings." Emma helped pick them out. "I did," Emma announced proudly. "They're simple but elegant. That's what the lady said." Daniel slipped the ring on, and it fit perfectly. "Yes," he said, "I'll marry you. Today, tomorrow, whenever you want." "How about next month?" "What?" Victoria pulled out another envelope. "I got a license, found a judge who's a friend. We can have a small ceremony at the apartment. Just us, Emma, a few close friends. Nothing fancy. Just real. You planned our wedding. I planned a wedding. You can say no. We can do the big thing if you want. But I've spent 18 months waiting to call you my husband. I don't want to wait anymore." Daniel looked at Emma. What do you think, baby? I think we should be a real family, with papers and everything. So it's official. Papers and everything, Daniel repeated. He turned to Victoria. Next month. Let's do it. Victoria kissed him across the table, and Emma made a face, but she was smiling. They ordered dinner, real dinner, expensive dinner, the kind Daniel used to look at and calculate how many bills it could pay. But tonight, he didn't calculate. He just enjoyed the meal with his family in the place where everything had changed. When dessert came, Emma pulled out a drawing she'd been working on. 3 stick figures holding hands standing in front of a house with a crooked door and flowers that looked like explosions. "This is us," she said. "Daddy, Mommy, and me." Daniel froze. "Mommy?" Emma looked at Victoria, suddenly uncertain. "Is that okay? I know you're not my real mommy, but you love me like one, and you love Daddy, so can I call you that?" Victoria's face crumpled. She pulled Emma into her lap, holding her tight. "Yes," she whispered. Yes, you can call me that. It would be the greatest honor of my life. Even though I already had a mommy, your first mommy will always be your mommy. She gave you life. She loved you first. I'm just lucky enough to love you second. There's room in your heart for both of us." Emma nodded against Victoria's shoulder. "I think my first mommy would like you. I think she sent you to us that night at the restaurant. I think she was watching." Daniel had to turn away, emotions overwhelming him. Sarah would have liked Victoria. She would have approved of this fierce, successful woman who'd seen value in a broken man and loved him back to wholeness. "I think you're right, baby," he managed. They sat there long after the plates were cleared, just talking and laughing and being together. The waiter brought the check, and Daniel reached for it automatically. Victoria's hand stopped him. "I've got this one." "Victoria, let me, please. I'll never forget paying for your meal that first night. It's how I knew you were special. You accepted kindness without letting it diminish you. That's rare." Daniel let her pay, but he held her hand while she signed the receipt. Outside, the Boston night was cool and clear. Emma walked between them, holding both their hands, swinging like she had that night at the library 18 months ago. "Are we going home now?" she asked. "Home." The word settled into Daniel's chest with perfect weight. "Yeah, sweetheart, we're going home." They walked through the streets of Boston in no hurry, just 3 people who'd found each other against impossible odds. A single father with nothing but dignity and $50. A CEO who'd forgotten what it meant to be seen. A little girl who'd lost her mother but gained a family. Emma skipped ahead, her laughter echoing off the buildings. Victoria leaned into Daniel's side. "Are you happy?" "Yeah, I really am. No regrets." "Not one. Well, maybe one." She stiffened. "What?" "I regret not talking to you sooner that first night. I wasted time sitting there feeling sorry for myself when I could have been getting to know you." She laughed, relieved. "We had to become who we needed to be first. You needed to remember your worth. I needed to remember my heart. We found each other exactly when we were supposed to." "You really believe that?" "I do. That night, when that woman stood you up. That wasn't rejection, Daniel. That was redirection. The universe clearing the path for us to find each other." Daniel stopped walking, pulled her close. "I love you, Victoria Sterling. Soon to be Victoria Carter." "Actually, I was thinking Victoria Sterling Carter. I built that name, but I want yours too." "Deal." They kissed under a streetlight while Emma called out that they were being gross and to hurry up. As they walked home together, Daniel thought about that night in the restaurant, about sitting alone with shame burning in his chest, about wanting to disappear, about the woman who'd seen him when he thought he was invisible. He'd walked in with $50 and a broken heart. He was walking out with everything that mattered. The rejection had felt like the end of his story, but it was just the beginning, and the beginning was just destiny waiting patiently for him to be ready to receive it.